Good morning. Welcome to the second edition of Conversational Chaos, the intelligent ramblings of Jason and the Rage Monster. As always, the Rage Monster is here with Jason.
Good morning.
Guten Morgen.
So there's a video. I don't know if you've seen it yet. This is a polarizing topic, but let's not get into the polarizing part of it.
Okay.
So there's a video of our president, Donald Trump, walking onto an airplane with toilet paper stuck to his shoe.
This sounds like a joke.
You would think, but I checked other news outlets and they all have the video and the picture.
Okay.
So what concerns me is not supporting or going against the president because he's very polar. How bad is it that there's people that support him whose job is to make sure that
he doesn't have toilet paper stuck to his shoe?
That he looks like the most powerful man in the world, and they allow that to happen.
This is a very bad topic to bring up first thing in the morning, especially after I've had all this caffeine.
He seems particularly ragey today.
I do. I'm amped up. I don't know what's going on. That is bothersome. Certainly, that nobody said, "Hey, Mr. President, you have toilet paper stuck to your shoe." I mean, nobody took the time to say that, and he had to walk all the way to a plane. It's not like they parked a limousine right at the bottom of the ramp. You know, he has to walk down some carpet, glad hand some people, and nobody took the time to either mention that he had it stuck to his shoe.
Yeah, it was a big piece, too. It wasn't like you couldn't see it. It was flapping in the wind.
I mean, it was flapping in the wind?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how it didn't just fall off. It's like you would almost think it had to be on purpose. But it's the president. He shouldn't be doing things like that on purpose. Well, or maybe someone stuck it there on purpose, but that would be kind of tricky.
That would be kind of tricky. And really, it's akin to having somebody tape a sign that says "kick me" onto his back. I would assume somebody would say to the president, "Hey, Mr. President, there's a kick me sign taped to your back," or at least have removed it. Even if I know the Secret Service, that's not their job to make sure that he looks okay. Their job is to stand in the way of bullets, really,
right?
Unfortunately, but there are lots of other people around whose job isn't to protect him, and their job is to make sure that he is presentable. And walking around with toilet paper stuck to your shoe does not make you unpresentable, I guess. It makes you look kind of silly. So there definitely should have been someone who at least stepped on the tail of the toilet paper and at least tore it off at the shoe so it didn't look as ridiculous. But I have not seen this video.
You'll probably see it soon because it's getting a lot of attention for those reasons.
But. Well, the sad thing is I look at the news feed every day.
Yeah.
And what really bothers me, I mean, I go very generic. I usually just go to Google News, okay? And they usually give you the top 4 stories, from wherever, and then it's the top 4 world stories and the top 4 U.S. stories or whatever. I'm dismayed just based on the fact that over the last few months, every morning when I go and I check that feed, almost always the first 4 stories have something political.
Right. Yeah, I've noticed the same thing.
2 or 3 of those stories are almost always Donald Trump related.
Yeah.
And so I'm not really big into politics. I won't sugarcoat the fact that I do not vote. So therefore I really have no, reason to complain, I guess. But really, when it comes down to that sort of thing, you're either, in my personal opinion, you either have something bad in one hand and you have something bad in the other hand, and it's which version of bad do you want? I don't prescribe to Republican ideology. I don't prescribe to Democratic ideology. So, when it comes to voting, I've had people tell me in the past, when it comes to voting, you should pick an issue that is yours, like an issue that you really care about, abortion or women's rights or whatever, and vote for whichever candidate supports that issue. And I think that's the dumbest thing ever, because say my issue is birth rights, so abortion, and say Donald Trump is anti-abortion and I'm totally anti-abortion, but Donald Trump is all for resegregating schools. I'm not going to vote for him just because he's anti-abortion. I mean, I think that's the dumbest thing ever. So when it comes to those political things, I don't there are certain things that I agree with with Republicans and Democrats, but I can't bring myself to vote for either one because honestly, they're all idiots.
Well, I think they're doing this on purpose, where there's only two parties and there's two sides to each issue, and each one picks the opposite side. So if you're for the rights of the unborn, great, but then the other party is rights for the elderly. So you can't protect the life of the infant and the life of the elderly by voting for the same person. It seems like they split the issues on a lot of things. So you could say, well, this issue is important to me, so I'll take this one. But at the same time, there's another equally weighted issue that you just have to ignore. So it's hard to make a good decision.
Do we really need to save old people?
This is a bigger topic, but I think so.
Really?
When you get older, your mind doesn't function as well, especially if you're in a lot of pain. And if you would make decisions when you're not as clear thinking, then you may not have made other times.
I mean, I could totally see what I'm about to say causing issues, but not that I really, really believe this, but once in a futuristic society. So okay, we'll talk about utopian future, which the future always seems to be utopian. It never seems to suck, but sometimes it's going to, and there's really nothing you can do about the fact that it's going to suck just as much as it does now. It's just be in the future. But if you really want to talk about like future civilization and everything, well, when someone ceases to become like a productive part of society, they really should just be gotten rid of.
That's dark.
It is. But, I have seen, people in my family tend to live old enough, mid 80s, low 90s, it happens. And they've all had their their mental constitution still with them when they've passed. But their physical abilities generally are very diminished. And I know I'm going to get to that point, and I look at other families who have grandparents that have moved in with them because they can no longer take care of themselves, and that is like a really big drain on that family. I'm not suggesting you don't do that. It's called compassion and empathy. I empathize. And when it comes to the point where one of my parents has to do that, which probably won't be too far in the future, I will do that, and I will take that burden on as a child lovingly to do so. But from an outside perspective, it just seems dumb. It just seems dumb to do that.
I'm just trying to hold back my laughter.
I'm just saying it's when it comes to If I had to choose between saving children or saving the elderly, I would obviously save children.
But you don't have to choose.
That's true. You don't have to choose.
So you can just save everybody.
I guess that's true. I guess you can save everybody. I was thinking about this on the way in this morning, and I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Great.
No, it was a very serious question on artificial intelligence. How do you feel about basically humans drifting towards having machines doing anything and everything possible? And at what point do we should we be worried about the sentient capability of a computer system?
I think we should already be concerned.
You really think?
I do.
What, Skynet 2018? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
No. So the way that I understand that like machine learning works is you build some algorithm, the machine goes through it, picks out the good ones, throws out the bad ones. But there's really no understanding of how you get to the end product from the start. So there's decisions being made that you can't go back and track through with equations or decision making. It's just you put in a set of inputs, you get a set of outputs, and it's done automatically. Somebody has made some algorithms, someone else has adjusted them, someone else has adjusted them further, but there's no tracking all the way through to be able to explain, I started with A, I got to B, how did I get from A to B? So I think there's decisions being made that people aren't aware of what's going on. So when things need to be investigated further, nobody really understands what's going on. So people are allowing the machines to make the decisions, don't fully understand it, and they're just accepting the output as science. Like science is becoming the religion. The computer made the decision based on A and B. It picked the best one, but I don't know how it got from A to B.
Well, that's a matter of ignorance of the person who's receiving the output.
Well, I think that's ignorance in how the system's being built. Like there isn't a good understanding of
But I guess my point is whether the person receiving the output is ignorant or not, the output is still defined by something. So say you developed an algorithm that thinks through this process and gives me an answer. Well, you know how the algorithm works. The fact that I don't know how it works doesn't make it sinister. It just makes it that I just don't understand how it works.
Well, I think there's other people in the loop that also don't know how it works. So I think they're just relying on code, and then they don't understand what's really going on. They have someone who had an idea, someone codes it, and they code in whatever they want, and then they just look for bugs in the code. But you don't know if it's a bug unless you know how the system works. So if you're writing the code and you say, oh, it looks bug-free, but now you put in a picture of a bee and it's telling you that it's a grasshopper, and everyone says, well, now that's not a bee, that's a grasshopper. Well, and then the grasshopper becomes the bee.
I'd be the first person to say that no code is bug free.
Right. I think we know
there's no code that's bug free. But I guess really it comes down to the fact that somebody is defining those rules. There are still rules that it is following. And yes, it might tell you that a bee is a grasshopper is a bee, or, a book is a, Volkswagen bug. I mean, it might tell you a lot of different things, but it doesn't mean that it's right.
Right, but I think people are going to start trusting that it is right, because why would you code the computer incorrectly? There's that reliance on, oh, well, someone smart must have made this, so it's got to be right, so I'm just going to trust that it's right. But there's issues in there that are just getting ignored because it's smart computers.
Well, computers are only as smart as the people that are programming them. I mean, that's the really interesting part about that whole thing, is that a computer has the ability to learn. They can learn things, but they're still learning things based on certain parameters. So I think that we we use smart computers all the time.
Right.
Phone, face recognition and stuff. That's, your computer in your phone is recognizing your face and being able to determine that it's your face and not someone else's face. Or, a FedEx sorting facility, or the luggage sorting at an airport. They're able to determine things based on numbers and codes and everything. They can say, okay, well, this package belongs over here, or this luggage belongs over here, or whatever. So I think that there's a lot of those things, especially menial things, that we should be making computers do for us. Just because, do we really want to pay somebody to have to do that? No, not really. But then you run into that other ethical issue, is that not everybody is intelligent. And we all know people who fall on both ends of that spectrum. I mean, I know people that are extremely intelligent, albeit generally socially awkward in that case, or people who are extremely unintelligent. But everybody deserves the right to make a living, and I guess we can't have machines and computers doing everything, but we should have at least smart machines that do certain things for us. But it needs to be controlled, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I don't want to have, what's that? There's a very strange movie. I don't remember what it's called. But basically, where it's a robot that's capable of having it's very human-like. It's very capable of having relationships with other people, becomes sentient on its own, and ends up basically killing its owner because it's afraid for its own safety. Now, that's where it gets really wonky when it comes to artificial intelligence in the future. Right now, I don't think we really have to worry about that so much. I don't think Skynet's coming anytime soon. I am certainly afraid of the potential for things in the future. Ex Machina. Yeah, that's right. Very, very strange situation. So I definitely think that there are certain things that we should allow computers to do, but I think there are certain things we shouldn't allow them to do.
I don't have a problem with the FedEx sorting boxes and envelopes and reading my vegetables at the grocery store and helping me scan them. It's more along of, I'm reading Google News and some algorithm has picked, this is what you should be reading today. And then if you're opening Google News and the top 4 articles are political, and everybody's reading political news and everyone's divided over those issues, I think there's an issue there that it's driving society to a split place, like an awkward place. All because there's some algorithm that says, well, this is getting a lot of hits today, and you don't understand the algorithm, but you're still processing the outputs of it.
See, I guess that presents another issue, because is it an algorithm that's providing those stories? I mean, the answer is yes, but again, that algorithm is controlled by someone else. So, say I were the CEO of Google, and I really believed that Donald Trump was the greatest president on the planet, or the opposite. Say I believe that he was the worst president to have ever existed. And I want people to read negative stories about him. So I have it changed so that only these negative stories pop up as the top 4 feeds every day. So anytime there's a negative story about Trump, boom, it pops up. So that's one person. That's what kind of scares me about it, is that it's really can be one person or a group of people that are controlling others, which is the way the society has kind of always been. It's always been like one group exercising power over another. But in this case, I think it's not just, it's not like a local phenomena. It's not a national phenomena. We're talking international. And when it gets to the point where we're no longer living just on Earth, it's going to become a like interplanetary phenomena where you have groups of people that can control the thought of other people. And that's really kind of what the government, really their job sort of is. I don't want to say it's not manipulation, but their job sort of is to control our thought, which really controls our lives, even in the language that we use for certain things. I mean, language changes all the time, but political correct language, or now this gender language that's been really big in the last few years. I'm not a big proponent of all that stuff, but I also don't like being told this is how I have to refer to things, or this is the appropriate way to refer to something. I just don't really like the whole thought control. I mean, this is Pink Floyd, another brick in the wall all over again. We're all the children in that school, and we're just marching in a line with those blank faces.
Yeah, it's scary. So I have a lighter topic.
Okay.
Since those are 2 heavy ones we've had today.
All right. Lighter topic.
All right.
Let's go.
My secret question.
Ooh, is this the one you prepared the other day for me?
Yeah, I have random ones for you.
Okay. Shoot.
You're walking in the woods and you see a black bear. Not a cub, not a full adult, but like an adolescent black bear. You're all by yourself. Do you run? Do you stand still? Or do you try and wrestle the bear?
Well, I've never come across a bear in the woods. I have had bears outside of my tent while camping in the woods. It's very unnerving. I wouldn't run.
I don't think you can outrun a bear.
I wouldn't run anyway. That's like one of the worst things you could do, is to try to run from any creature that is above you on the food chain. Running from them is probably the worst thing you can do, because that shows weakness, and they may say, hey, let's chase after whatever that thing is. It's like a puppy and a squirrel. Puppy's going to chase a squirrel, and it's like an adolescent black bear is probably going to chase me if I start running away. So I wouldn't run away.
Well, just real quick, a bear runs about 50 feet per second, which is about twice as fast as a human can.
Yeah, but that's a grizzly bear.
No, it just says bear.
Yeah, but
it's just a picture of a grizzly bear.
Okay, so it's a picture of a grizzly bear, but it's talking about bears in general.
Yes. So you probably won't outrun a bear.
Okay, so
even if it's a slow one, it's still probably faster.
I wouldn't run anyway. So
okay,
I wouldn't
so you're not going to run.
I'm not going to run. There's a really good chance I'm not going to wrestle with a bear. An adolescent black bear.
It might just think you're being playful.
That's true. An adolescent black bear is probably maybe a couple 100 pounds.
Probably.
So I'm well above the 200-pound mark. So I wouldn't be concerned about wrestling the bear. I wouldn't worry about it. This is a ridiculous question. I would never wrestle a bear. I would stand there and I would watch to see what the bear did. The bear started meandering towards me. I would probably start backing up, and I wouldn't run away.
What if you just stumble upon it and it's like 3 feet away from you? Still just going to stand there?
I would slowly back away from the bear. The last thing you want to do is surprise any animal in the woods. Honestly, I was working, this is when I was in college. I was working at a performing arts center, like an outdoor amphitheater type place. And it was in a state park in New York. And it's surrounded by this big fence. And there was a couple of gates in it where people could come in. But outside of this fence was woods. So it was very wooded, park-like atmosphere. And so I was working this little gate that they used to call the employees' gate. So there was a small parking lot out there. You could park out there, and employees could come in through that gate. But anyone could come through that gate at any time. So there was people there for security and to take tickets and all that kind of stuff. Well, it was just this little shack next to like a single lane gate coming through this fence. And I was working there one night, and I had to go to the bathroom. So you're in the woods, and the nearest bathroom is quite a ways away, and I'm the only security at this particular gate, other than the person who takes tickets who's not security. So I had to improvise. So I went around the side of the shack, and this is in the middle of the night. It had rained a little bit, and I'm going to the bathroom, and there was a deep rustling by my feet. And I had a flashlight kind of tucked under my arm. Well, I took the flashlight, I shined it, and sure enough, what was literally about 3 feet from me was a skunk. Thank God it didn't spray me, and I'm pretty sure that I urinated on this skunk a little bit, so I'm shocked that he didn't spray me. But surprising any animal is never a good thing, because you don't know. The animal brain works so much different than a human brain does. Human has at least some sort of rational responses sometimes. Like if you surprised me, my initial reaction would just be like, of surprise, whatever. But my second reaction isn't to attack you. It's actually funny. This morning, when I was getting ready to leave the house, I was the last thing I do before I leave the house is I kiss my wife goodbye, and I always check on my children. And when I went into the bedroom this morning, my oldest was like in that weird, like half awake, half asleep stage.
Yeah. Scared
the heck out of her. She actually screamed, and I went over and I was like, honey, it's just Daddy. I said, I'm just leaving for the day. But her second reaction after screaming wasn't to attack me, which, most animals are either, it's very animalistic, fight or flight instinct. Most animals are going to try to run away, but if they feel cornered, they're going to attack you. So, again, going back to the bear situation, coming across a bear in the woods, if I surprised it, I would hope that it would try to run away. If a bear wanted to wrestle with me, I guess I wouldn't have a choice. I would have to defend myself. I generally don't carry, unless I'm in a really dangerous area, like if I'm like in Glacier National Park and I'm hiking, I'm carrying a pistol, or I'm carrying bear spray, or I'm carrying an extremely long knife. Because those bears, you're talking grizzly bears, 5, 6, 800 pounds, 1,000-pound males, they're going to eat me. So I'm going to viciously defend myself if attacked. Black bears, if I'm hiking out here in the east, on the East Coast, I'm not particularly concerned about black bears, so I generally don't carry any kind of weapon with me into the woods. So if they chose to wrestle with me, I guess I would have to wrestle.
I was just hoping that would be your first choice.
How about you? What would you do?
I don't know. I would probably run, which would be the bad thing. Then I would have to wrestle.
Exactly. It would chase you down and say, hey, wait a second. We're supposed to wrestle. That would be a very interesting scenario.
Right. Because I know they can climb trees.
Yeah.
And I can't climb trees.
They can definitely climb trees. Never try to get away from a bear by climbing a tree, because they will climb a tree after you.
I'd probably try and run on the opposite side of a tree and try to keep the tree between me and the bear until he got bored.
I guess that could. It really depends on the size of the tree. I mean, it better be a big tree.
I'd probably pick whatever's close by.
I remember reading this. It was a short biography somewhere, and I'll have to try to look it up again. There was a gentleman who was kayaking the Northwest Passage, so from Alaska over to, I don't know where he was going, somewhere in northeastern Canada. Maybe all the way to Greenland. But his point was to kayak the Northwest Passage during the summer when it was ice free. And so he had started on his journey, and he had this long sea kayak, had all of his gear in there, tents and food and everything to last him. And as he was literally in the middle of nowhere, in northern Canada, he noticed there was a polar bear on shore. Apparently very, very distinct markings on it, dirt markings or something, but he just noticed that this grizzly bear had marks on the side of his face.
Grizzly bear or polar bear?
Polar bear, sorry. Polar bear. And it was getting towards the end of his day, so he decided, it's like, I'm not going to, go to shore here. There's a giant grizzly bear, or a polar bear there. I don't know why I keep saying grizzly bear. It's a giant polar bear on shore. I don't want to go on shore with this polar bear there. So he's like, I'll just keep going a little further. So he went a few more miles down, and sure enough, as he got closer to shore, what did he see?
The polar bear.
The same polar bear with the same markings on it. This polar bear was stalking him, and it got to the point where he was so concerned for his safety, we never went to shore that night. He stayed in the ocean. He ended up sleeping in his kayak a little bit, yeah, but he stayed offshore a ways because he knew, well, for one, that the polar bear could swim out there to get him if they really wanted to. But the polar bear was following him, which you hear stories all the time of people being stalked by grizzly bears.
Yeah.
But, you go to Wikipedia, and I don't know why I used to do this, it's morbid curiosity, I guess. I used to go to Wikipedia, and they have pages dedicated to fatal bear attacks by decade, or fatal shark attacks by decade, or fatal cougar attacks by decade, or alligator attacks by decade. And it's actually sort of entertaining, but kind of sad because you find out that, a lot of the victims tend to be children. Oh. It's kind of sad because they're small and, they look delicious, I guess. I mean, I don't know. They tend to get, killed by wild animals easier than adults do anyway. But
there's that saying about bears, the darker the color, the friendlier they are. So, or the lighter the color, the deadlier they are. Polar bears are the most dangerous. Black bears are the least dangerous.
So I would say panda bears are like the Sibyls of the bear community. White and black. I mean, are they dangerous? Are they cute? I mean, or should we use extreme caution when dealing with panda bears?
You can go both ways.
It's a wild animal. And we've never really had the pet discussion before, I guess, but I'm not a big fan of pets in general. I'm certainly not a fan of people having apex predators as pets.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
No, that's, who was look this up real quick. Who was the guy in Alaska who, they called him the Bear Man, didn't they? He was living with a group of grizzly bears in Alaska. I can't remember what the guy's name was now. Timothy Treadwell. That's him.
I haven't heard of him.
Oh, you gotta read the story about Timothy Treadwell. He made a documentary, or was making a documentary about bears and how bears were misunderstood and all this other kind of stuff. Well, of course, he lived in a tent for months at a time in Alaska among these bears, and sure enough, one night some of these bears apparently got hungry because they killed him and consumed a large portion of his body, along with the companion that he had with him at the time, his female companion. When I read stories like that, or I see things like that about people being mauled or killed by apex predators that they were keeping as pets, Darwin in action. I don't feel the least bit sorry for him. If you're going to have a lion as a pet and the lion bites your head off, hey, I can't say you didn't see that coming. But, having dogs, cats, that's one entirely separate issue. But people with boa constrictors, who keeps a 20-foot boa constrictor in their bathroom and then they're surprised when their 3-year-old goes missing?
You don't have to take it that dark.
Well, but seriously, I mean, why in the heck would you keep that type of a predator as a pet?
Right.
They're just misunderstood. No, they're not misunderstood. We understand them perfectly. They're predators. They will bite you. They will kill you. I'm not saying they will kill you. They could kill you. They don't have any qualms about biting your face or.
Plus, when they get sick or they're injured, you don't know how they're going to react.
You don't know how they're going to react ever.
Even just cats and other things, small animals.
Yeah, this is why I don't allow pets in my house. It's really sad. I feel bad for my kids.
We have fish right now, so
I have 2 fish. We have
pets
for pets. But it was when I was leaving to go to Afghanistan back in 2013. I remember my wife telling me that she was going to get the kids a puppy while I was gone, and I told her absolutely not. I do not allow pets in the house, and I said absolutely not. And she says, "Well, I have to do something." And I said, well, "Okay, we'll do something, but no pets." So I came home, and of course there was a betta fish at the house, and she was concerned about how I was going to react to having this betta fish. I mean, she told me about it, of course, before I came home, but. My reaction was, I want nothing to do with this particular creature. I don't want to feed it. I'm not cleaning its tank. If it dies from starvation, it's their fault.
Do you have it still?
No, the betta fish died. It lived 2 years, which is a pretty good life for a betta fish. No, so the betta fish died, and we decided, well, I wouldn't say we. I was not part of this decision-making process to get more fish.
You should.
So after several months, we ended up getting a 10-gallon fish tank as opposed to like the little 1-gallon tank that had the betta fish in it. So we get this 10-gallon tank, and we ended up with 8 glowfish at the house. And 6 of them have died, and we only have 2 left. And it was actually kind of disturbing. Beard watching the house for me. And we'd gone on vacation, and I told him, I was like, hey, one of these glowfish is not doing well. It's sick. So if it dies while we're gone, just dispose of it. Scoop it out, put it in the toilet, flush it, whatever.
You don't bury your fish?
No. If it were up to me, I would put the fish in the garbage disposal. But my wife doesn't like that.
It's just not right at all.
So Beard was watching the house for me, and I told him this fish was sick, that if it died to remove it. Well, he calls me the first day he has to go to the house to feed the fish and get the mail and everything, and he says, "Hey, that fish died before you left." I said, "No, it was still in there when we left." He says, "Well, it's not in here now."
It's not in there anymore?
He said it wasn't in there anymore.
Oh.
And
jumped out.
No.
Sorry.
No, there's a lid on the thing. It can't jump out. There's no way. So he said that he looked around all over that tank, couldn't find it. Looked on the floor around it, no fish. And he thought, okay, well, maybe they're cannibals. I mean, it's like a secret cannibal tribe of glowfish, and they ate the other fish. I mean, he didn't really have any idea. So he just went about his business, fed the fish, and went, repeatedly to feed the fish while we were gone. Came home, and glowfish are called glowfish because they are like neon in color. They glow under a black light. And of course, we have a bunch of stuff in the tank, seaweed and fake grass and like little castle huts and crap like that. And so, of course, we have this tall, spiky grass that is neon green when the black light's on. And the fish that was dying was neon green. The black light was on. And it had died, and it had floated nose down, like into the bed of this grass, and you could not see it. No. It took me a good half an hour to find this fish. And when I did, and of course I went to get it out, it was that point it had already started to really kind of decay.
It
just
melts.
And it had been in there for probably about 2 weeks at that point. And
that's too long.
I showed Beard, I took a picture of the fish and I sent it to Beard, and he's like, oh, it was in there. I'm like, yeah, it was in there. And I showed him where it was, and I'm not surprised. I mean, I don't blame him. It's not his fault that he couldn't find it. It was difficult to find. He didn't know what color the fish was anyway, because the only fish that were left at that point were a blue fish and a pink fish. So there's no reason he would know that there was a green fish that just happens to match the color of the green grass that was in there. So I don't even know how we got onto that topic. Oh, for pets. Yeah. Okay. So I think it's time we have to wrap it up for the day. Mr. Jason, what do you think?
I think that's good for today.
We do, ladies and gentlemen, we do have a Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook accounts. We will, on the website, we will post the links to those. We will be posting things periodically to those websites. We also do have a Ko-fi and a Patreon account. If you're interested in donating to Jason and the Rage Monster, please do so. It'll go far in getting us some actual gear that's worthwhile. Our Twitter account, it's @ConverseChaos, and Instagram is @Conversational Chaos. We will certainly be monitoring those sites and making posts of our own.
We may have a Facebook page at some point if they ever decide to continue reviewing our security profiles and not deem us as a threat. We're still waiting several weeks in, so we'll see if that ever occurs.
We're certainly a threat to people's emotional well-being.